Are live. There we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Habit Finder Facebook page. Welcome to Clubhouse. Those of you listening in, this is Disrupt Your Week with Paul Blanchard. I'm the president of Habit Finder. Every Wednesday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, we are right here on Clubhouse, live on our Habit Finder Facebook page, talking about your thinking patterns, talking about mindset, from a very, very unique level. Mindset is everything. We hear this constantly, that it's all about mindset. Everyone knows what to do, everything, and how to get it done is simple and easy, and you can Nike the crap out of yourself and just do it. But why do people struggle with just doing it frequently or consistently, or with the right energy or right intention? And oftentimes it's because of their mindset. This is what it all comes down to. What's between your ears? Now, the challenge, the reason we want to disrupt your week, disrupt your mindset, disrupt your patterns, is because mindset has been taught as this ethereal, abstract idea, oftentimes, if I could be so bold, as a buzzword just to sell you something you don't need. But mindset, in fact, the mind and the set, is mathematical. It is scientific. It is a neurological mapping of how your brain is processing your reality. Now, your brain is constantly processing your reality consciously and subconsciously, unconsciously. In fact, the research that continues to come out demonstrating what Og Mandino, in The Greatest Salesman in the World, one of the best books ever written. We are the official Og Mandino company, so obviously I'm biased. But over 60 years ago, Og talked about this other mind. And he gave some incredible words, chilling, in fact. This other mind that creates my dreams, that never sleeps, and makes me act in ways I do not comprehend. Makes me act in ways I do not comprehend. That's the subconscious mind. And the research that continues to come out demonstrating the power of the subconscious mind is wild. It's crazy. I was just reading a study they did recently, just the other day, where it showed, when given several choices that people would consider which one they wanted, that the fMRI, okay, the functional MRI, can see brain activity, conscious and unconscious, demonstrated a firing that was indicative of the decision being made 7 seconds ahead of the person stating their decision. And as soon as they feel like they made their decision, then they would say it. A 7-second gap with a simple 4-choice pattern thing of which one they were drawn to or which one they liked the most. The unconscious mind knew it first before they could even have a conscious thought about it. And then the implications of that throughout your life, in terms of buying decisions, in terms of consistency, procrastination, all these things that Og talked about make us act in ways we do not comprehend. That's why disruption is one of the key principles of Habit Finder. We're not interested in you thinking what we think. That's a scary proposition for you to think the way I think. I just want to disrupt the way you're thinking in the areas that are sabotaging you. And we do that with the Habit Finder technology. We do that with the Habit Finder assessment, which is probably the most powerful tool in personal development today. There is no mainstream psychometric assessment out there that measures as objective, totally objective. This is not personalities and colors and numbers. This is an objective mapping of how your brain is processing your life. And what we come in here every week in this show on our Facebook page with Habit Finder and live here on Clubhouse every Wednesday at 10 a.m. is to share with you some things that can help you grow, help become better. But all of them are within the boundaries of how your brain actually functions. So sometimes you'll hop on here and you'll hear things that sound very much like what you've heard before. Sometimes you'll jump on here and hear me share things that are very different from what you've heard before. Sometimes you'll jump on here and hear things that might offend you because they are not according to your reality. But I've got something you're going to want to remember, and that is that your reality is not the reality. So thank you for joining us here on Clubhouse. Thank you for joining us here on the Habit Finder Facebook page. I'm going to dive into today's topic as we normally do for the next 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. And then I'm going to sign off of the Facebook Live, and I'll stay live here on Clubhouse for live interactive coaching and questions and anything that I can do to serve any of you today in helping improve your life, your business, and all of the above. So today we're talking about finding a great coach. Now, disclaimer, I'm a coach, but I'm not here to tell you how to find me. I have 5 keys for you to finding a great coach. And everyone should have a coach. And if you don't have a coach, you're going to want to have a stakeholder. We're going to talk about that as well, the difference between a stakeholder and an accountability partner. Simply put, an accountability partner sucks because it's usually blind leading the blind. And as soon as someone starts to falter, they're almost hoping that the other person will too, so they can give each other permission to be accountable to procrastination and diversion and whatever else. Okay. Obviously, I have some strong feelings about accountability partners, but that's because typically they don't work. If they've worked for you, right on. That's fantastic. Most triumphant. Okay. However, for most people, accountability partners don't work. So if you don't have a coach, get a stakeholder, and we'll talk about that today as well. But again, I want to reiterate, I'm not here to talk to you about how to find me as a coach. Okay. I don't have any room for new clients right now anyway. So the opportunity, though, to understand that all of you should have a coach. And even if I've been your coach, I hope you find other coaches. I've had many coaches. I have a coach that I've worked on and off with for 15 years, but then I have every year different coaches and mentors that I create accountability with, that I invest in to serve me in my season of life and what I'm trying to create. However, I want to make sure that you are armed with the ways to find the right coaches, to find the best coaches for you. Okay. So we're going to go through that today, and then we'll talk about accountability. Actually, let's talk about that first. Just in case anyone here is listening on Clubhouse or on our Facebook Live, on the Habit Finder Facebook page, where I do this show every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And my father, my business partner, who is amazing, by the way, we call him the Wizard of Og, okay? Because he started this company 21 years ago now, as the official Og Mandino company, when offered the rights to do so by Og's widow, Betty Mandino. He does a show right here on the Facebook page Monday mornings at 8 a.m. Mountain Time called Launch Your Week. And then I'm here on Wednesdays on Clubhouse and Facebook Live doing Disrupt Your Week. Okay. So, but let's start with anyone listening on Clubhouse or Facebook Live that's like, well, I can't afford a coach, a personal coach, or whatever it might be. Well, there are great courses out there. We can talk about that a little bit. That'll come up in the 5 keys to finding a great coach. And again, that's not so you can find me as a coach or find another Habit Finder coach as a coach. It's about any coach you need, and you'll see that it'll get addressed in there. But if you are not in a position to find a personal coach, and you're not quite sure about these masterminds, which are so trendy right now, okay, which oftentimes are created so that someone doesn't have to do individual coaching, even though that's still, to this day, the most effective way of transformation and mentorship that there is, whatever. What you're going to want to do is start with a stakeholder. Now, a stakeholder is not an accountability partner. An accountability partner is someone typically who does something similar to what you do or has very similar goals to what you have, and you are going to hold each other. I'm doing air quotes, Clubhouse, okay? Forgive me for that, okay? Where we're going to find someone to hold us accountable to what we want to accomplish. But here's the challenge. It's usually a peer. It's usually someone who's on the same level as us, and we're human. We're going to have challenges. We're going to have weaknesses. We're going to have days that we just don't feel like doing it. And as soon as a day you don't feel like doing it, and a day your accountability partner doesn't feel like doing it, that's the beginning of the end. It's inevitable that will align eventually, usually within the first week or two of taking on something, depending on what it is. And so we want to be careful that we're not using accountability partners to be able to excuse each other, that we're not using an accountability partner to be able to stay where we are, because that's one of the challenges of doing so. What you want to do is find a stakeholder. Meaning this is someone who is invested in you at a deep level. They're invested in you beyond necessarily doing the same thing that you're doing. Oftentimes they have an appreciation for what you're doing. They have an appreciation for how you're growing and your goals and what you want to accomplish, but they're not necessarily a peer. Okay. They're not necessarily someone who is right there next to you on the front lines doing what you're doing. You want them to have a vantage point. You want them to have a vested interest in you, whether this is a friend or a parent or a sibling or whatever it might be. But you want them to be a stakeholder, meaning there's something they're going to get from providing this attention to you, something they have been getting through their life and what they're trying to accomplish. Okay. So you want to find that person that wants to see you win and loves you enough to hold you accountable to what you want to accomplish, regardless of what's happening in their life. Meaning they get to step up as your stakeholder, but they don't ever have to feel like an imposter. They don't have to feel like, well, who am I to hold so-and-so accountable? Who am I to hold Lisa accountable to what she's doing in her home-based business when I don't even show up in mine? Well, that's not what it's about, and that's one of the risks of accountability partners. Just find someone who cares more about your growth and your success than they do about making sure that they don't feel like, pot and kettle. Hi, nice to meet you kind of thing, okay? Because then you can get a commitment from them to always show up and provide you with the accountability that you need, not the accountability that you want necessarily, because there will be days you don't want that accountability. And that's why we want stakeholders. We want stakeholders, ones who can be more objective because they're not right in the middle of what we're doing. Objectivity as a stakeholder is really important. Just like you don't want the person who's just always going to be okay with, well, I'm just great. I just love the way you currently are. Well, I appreciate that. But usually when people are saying that, what they're actually saying is, it would make me uncomfortable if you became better because I don't want to be. Okay, it doesn't have to be they're getting better in the same business as you or the same opportunity. That's an accountability partner. We want a stakeholder, someone who is connected to you, someone who's plugged into you that can help hold you accountable. Okay, I think that's enough on stakeholders and accountability partners. If you have any questions about that and you're on Facebook Live, please feel free to comment. If you're on Clubhouse and you have any questions about that, we're going to wrap up here in about 10 minutes on Facebook Live, and then I'll shut that off and we'll jump into Clubhouse for questions, interaction, coaching, whatever I can do to serve you. All right, perfect. Now that we've covered, if you're not in a position to get a coach, get a stakeholder, not an accountability partner, let's talk about the 5 keys for hiring a great coach. All right. Number one key to hiring a great coach is questions. Questions are king in just about every facet of life, but especially important when you're looking to hire a coach. Because when you're looking for a great personal coach, you want to have an interview mindset. Okay, you're not going in to be sold. You're not going in to browse. You're going in to interview. And this is a two-way road. Great questions shouldn't just be the great questions you want to ask the coach. Okay, which there's a fine line between interview and skeptical interview. Okay, you might not get the best answers from someone you're grilling, but you do want to interview them. Think of a great job interview. You want to create a supportively demanding job interview because you want them to be in a supportively demanding culture that is going to both allow them to feel safe about who they are, but feel that they are living up to something greater and wanting to become more. So have that interview mindset, but it's a two-way road. It's not just about the questions you ask the coach. Pay close attention to the questions the coach asks you. Because if through this process, whether it's automated or it's actually interactive and live, the more time that a coach spends presenting to you and selling you, the more time you're probably going to spend in your coaching engagement being presented to and sold. And that's not coaching. It's not. You should be able to present well. You should be able to sell if you're a coach, even though most coaches suck at sales. But that's another topic for another day that I love to take head on with people who are in coaching type businesses with bleeding hearts and lots of empathy and servant leadership mindset. What great blessings, but what a shadow side when it comes time to get the transaction. But with that said, I'm not saying those should be absent, but if the primary focus is presentation and selling, that's going to be indicative more often than not to what the engagement's going to be like. And that's not coaching. Coaching is interactive. Coaching is about listening. Coaching is about intuition and guidance and other things we're going to talk about in this list. So that's number one to finding a great coach is great questions. The great questions you ask them and the great questions they ask you. Number two to finding a great coach is outcomes, outcomes, outcomes. Okay, one of the reasons why I hate to call myself a life coach is somewhere along the way, life coach just turned into positivity. Let's just make you feel good about the results you're not getting. And it also turned into, I woke up this morning, created a Facebook page, and now I'm a life coach. It's hard for that to not be insulting to someone who's been doing this for over 15 years with tens of thousands of people and put in a ridiculous amount of work and study and investment and everything else to be able to do that at the level that it's done. And now being able to teach other people who are willing to invest the time, the energy, the money to be able to do that as well. And I get the opportunity to help them get there faster. But still, it's not, you didn't become a coach just because you had a feeling about it. That should be what starts a journey to do that. So I have an issue with life coaching because it doesn't have outcomes that matter long-term. It's more about just how you're feeling, which is super important, but it's going to be really short-lived and a really frustrating drug to wake up to every morning if you're not achieving successful outcomes. You're not getting where you really want to be in life, okay? So the second key is outcomes, because coaches are like the App Store, okay? Heard that said on Clubhouse a while back. There's a coach for that. Whatever you want to learn, whatever you're trying to take on, whatever you're dealing with in your life, whether it's your chakras and your energy, or it's your business and your organization, your structure, or your relationship, or addiction recovery, whatever it is, there are coaches out there for that, and great ones. So again, we're going to start with questions, then we're going to get into outcomes. You will want to find a coach that fits your current focus, your current season, that can help you with your current obstacles that you are going to be clear about, not because you're clear about your obstacles, you're clear about your problems. Don't go into a coach focused on your problems and obstacles. Focus on the outcomes you want to achieve, and a natural result that reveals the obstacles, the areas for growth, the things you need to learn, the blind spots. But make it a focus on outcomes and allow those other things to be a natural result of that clarity. And that will allow you to be able to qualify a coach better, because then you can find the ones who have had success, the ones who are qualified. And I don't mean credentials, okay? You will not hear credentials on this list. No, credentials are so overrated in coaching, so overrated. Now, if you have them, I'm not bagging on you, but I've seen so many people think, oh, now I'm a certified what's-it coach, and the clients are just going to come a flying. And I'm going to make all of them successful. Credentials are super overrated. I ran a top 25 MBA program without a bachelor's degree. Okay. So yes, I have some strong emotions about not feeling that your operational ability, your practicality, your experience, your productive experience. Okay. You can read in Greatest Sales in the World what Og thinks about experience, that it's a great teacher, but it's often wasted on dead men. Okay, it's often wasted on those who speak wisely and nod wisely and speak stupidly, as he said, because experience is like fashion, always changes. We can talk about that another time. Okay, but credentials are overrated. However, we want to have outcomes, and you want to be clear about your outcomes, because the more specific your outcomes are, then the better your questions can be, and the better you can qualify the right coach for you. So number 2 is outcomes. Get really clear about the outcomes you want to accomplish. Because if you start your coaching engagement when you find the right coach from great questions with clear outcomes, you can be able to use those as a guide, as a compass throughout the coaching engagement. So it's not just a bunch of great conversations. So number 3, okay? Number 3 is tools and measurement. Tools and measurement. The father of management, Peter Drucker, said if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. You can't manage it. You've got to be able to measure it. And here's a hard truth. This might be tough to hear for some people, especially if you're currently a coach. A coach that is armed simply with their own experience and philosophy is an advisor, not a coach. And advisors can be very helpful, but you will want to understand the difference between an advisor, which is someone who advises, and a coach, which is someone who coaches, which is someone who gets someone somewhere based on their experiences, their challenges. And then you got an expert who is more similar to an advisor. An expert is someone who speaks from their experience, which means you're going to constantly be hearing about how they were successful and what worked for them. A coach is able to transfigure their experience, their advice, and be able to facilitate an environment where someone can advise themselves, experience themselves, so they can sustain their own journey to the success or the outcomes they want to create. So anyone that just has their own experience and philosophy is not a coach. They're an advisor. An advisor it's important to have advisors. We have advisors on our board of directors here at Habit Finder. Advisors bring value, but they are not coaches. Keep that in mind, because you want to see coaches that have experience and have unique perspective, but you want to be sure that they're also armed with objective tools, proven ways to measure the challenges and the outcomes that you are currently experiencing. That might be their objectivity from evolutionary psychology. Okay, there might be their objectivity from research that they've poured into and been a part of, peer-reviewed, really legitimate kind of stuff. They have access to tools that matter. Okay, we don't have enough time to talk about what I mean by that. Okay, but you will want to find those that have that aren't treating personal development like a philosophical game of ahas. There's a lot of people out there that sound awesome from stage, sound awesome on Clubhouse, but it's a lot of banal platitudes. You feel amazing when you hear it, but you go to apply it, and that's when it fails you. The hype and the hopium, the millionaire magic doctrine of ahas and manifestation and all this other stuff, okay? Again, I might be triggering some of you right now. That's why this is called Disrupt Your Week. There's more context behind all of this. But you will hear me constantly talk about not what people think they meant by manifestation or vision boards or whatever it might be. I'm going to talk about how they are typically used by over 90% of entrepreneurs, because we've studied hundreds of thousands of them objectively with neurological science and mathematics of how their brains operate and how that shows up in their life. So that's why I'm telling you, you want someone who has these objective tools, not because it should all be science, it should all be math. It should be intuitive, should be philosophical, should be experiential, but it should be guided, okay? Guided by objective tools, and you should be able to measure it. And it's not just I'm feeling better. It should be able to be objectively measured neurologically, emotionally, physically in the outcomes that you're creating. Number 4, references. References. Testimonials are good. References are gold. You can ascertain far more from a brief conversation with someone who's worked with the coach you're considering than you ever could from a carefully constructed testimonial. Okay. We have testimonials on our sites and on our social media, and they're awesome. They're so good. I'm not bagging on testimonials, but if you're looking to make a hefty investment in a coach, don't just rely on video testimonials, written testimonials. That's a great way to start your due diligence to make sure that it's worth digging in a little bit more, because you usually have to jump some hoops. Okay. You want to coach with me, you've got to work through some interviews and some sessions with my team until you get an opportunity to interview with me. And I'm going to be interviewing you as much as you're interviewing me to make sure that we're a good fit. And so as you're going through that process, the opportunity, if you're making a hefty investment, if you don't already know people that have worked with them, that you can even ask a couple of questions that can't be produced on a video or can't be edited well in a written testimonial, that is powerful and super important. It's not inappropriate for you to ask for that, to get a chance to talk to some people. Now, I have plenty of clients who have no desire to talk to anyone who wants to be one of my clients, okay? They don't mind telling people they already know about working with me and what it did and the outcomes that it created. However, I'm not here to parade them on commercial, but I have had enough clients that I have more than enough references if that's what someone needs, and I've interviewed them. And yes, if that's the only thing they need to make the decision, that's the last straw, that's the last piece, then absolutely. It's a great thing to be able to add in their due diligence. Okay, so references is the 4th key to finding a great coach. Number 5, coaches versus promoters. All right. I might end up hearing about this later. Okay. And just those of you that are on Clubhouse, just a quick reset of the room. This is my live show, Disrupt Your Week. We're on the Habit Finder Facebook page right now and live on Clubhouse. And we're going to be wrapping up here in just the next 1 to 2 minutes. And then I'm going to sign off of Facebook Live and stay on Clubhouse to answer questions, interact, coach, mastermind with anybody on Clubhouse to add that additional interaction that I love, live, real, raw with everybody. And thank you so much, everybody on Facebook Live. If you're getting value from this, please share this out. Please tag somebody in the comments. Those of you in Clubhouse, please hit that plus button, ping some people to get in here. I'm going to be on for the next 30 minutes to answer questions, interact with all of you. Thanks, sweetheart. My incredibly gorgeous wife just complimented me, and I'm going to turn red. But awesome. Love it. Totally worthwhile distraction. She totally is. So, all right, let's get to the final one. Again, this might get me in a little bit of trouble, but I'm going to share this with you. Number 5, coaches versus promoters. Not all, okay, I can't stress this enough, not all, but a lot of the best coaches are coaches you've never heard of. Why? Because they're busy coaching, not promoting. I'll never forget, I was a keynote speaker at a gala for the Oscars a few years back, and some incredible speakers. Ty Lopez, Ashton Kutcher spoke right after me. Matthew McConaughey spoke there. Several others, some of the great influencers and leaders in personal development were there. And I was introduced, and I'll never forget. She said those exact words. She said, some of the best coaches, usually the best coaches are the ones you've never heard of because they're busy coaching. And this next person is one of those people. I was like, that's awesome. I've never forgotten that. Because I'm not anti-promotion, I'm not anti-marketing, but I'm certainly not at the top of the game, not even close, because we're busy coaching, we're busy getting results. We've grown a very successful coaching business as the official Augmentino company and Habit Finder over the last 21 years, helping to impact over 250,000 clients with no marketing budget. It's all been referrals, all referrals. If that's not proof in the pudding, I don't know what is. But with that said, okay, here's the challenge. This is not a hard and fast black and white rule, okay? This is not a totality, but it's an important one to know. And that is this. There are a few great coaches who also have great marketing, but they are rare. There are a few great coaches who also have great marketing, but they are rare. So many people get sucked into funnels that are better, far better than the coach they lead to. So just be aware, okay? I'm not saying beware, but be aware. Be aware that the more dialed in the sales process seems to be, just be aware how much of their time and energy and money has gone into the promotional side, and and that's why questions, interview style, outcomes, all that stuff is going to be important. Again, I'm not saying that just because they've got that stuff dialed in, because we're now just in the last 6 months making huge investments and wanting to do that better, because we realize that as awesome as referrals have been, there's an entire virtual referral network out there with better website, better story branding, and all the different things that we've invested in the last 6 months as a company for the first time ever, by the way, that we can have a bigger reach. So I'm a big fan, but we've also spent 21 years coaching 10, 11 hours a day, 4 or 5 days a week, groups, masterminds, individual coaching, retreats, and did it without any marketing. And I love what the billionaire mentors to Airbnb, the people who created Airbnb, told them once, said, do what doesn't scale so that you can. And we've probably taken longer than we had to, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. 21 years to do the things that don't scale, to learn the things we've learned about people, to be able to make the impact that we can make. That's why I want to warn you, not so that you avoid funnels, not so you avoid promotion or good marketing, but the more amazing it seems, the more I would turn up and heighten your awareness and consciousness to say, is this funnel leading to a great marketer or to a great coach? Because there's a lot of coaches out there who are actually great marketers. And that's not a knock, but in terms of the value of your hefty investment in a personal coach or a mastermind or group coaching or whatever it might be, I just feel that it's really fair, really important to warn you about that. Again, not to make you skeptical. That's not an abundant mentality, but have a heightened sense of awareness, have a higher level of clarity, and be more patient with your decision to do so, because those funnels are designed to trigger your irrational mind. They're designed to emotionally trigger you to make decisions to buy with the least amount of resistance. That's not a bad thing. There are time after time that I have an interview with a great potential client, and I've got to challenge them. I've got to push some of those buttons to get them out of their own way. That's not a bad thing. I'm just saying, be aware that you can slip into a slide where on the other end, you're like, wow, I got sold. Okay. All right. So those are the 5 keys to finding a great coach, not necessarily finding me or one of my Habit Finder coaches. This is something I want you to be able to apply in any coaches you ever hire, regardless of what's going on in your life, that you ask great questions, pay attention to the questions they ask you. That's number 1. Number 2, outcomes. Stay focused on the outcomes you want to accomplish and allow that to reveal the obstacles and the challenges and the pain that you're currently experiencing. Number 3, tools and measurement, because anyone armed only with experience and philosophy is an advisor, not a coach. Number 4, references are better than testimonials. Testimonials are still good, but references, someone you can have a brief conversation with about working with that coach, is awesome. And then coaches versus promoters. Be careful to not get sold into a funnel that's better than the coach that it leads to. All right. Those are my 5 keys. I'm going to hop off of Facebook. I'm going to stay on Clubhouse. We're going to have some fun on there, have some interaction, some questions. So hang tight, everybody, on Clubhouse. If this was valuable to you, please share this out, comment. Feel free to join us on Clubhouse right now. Would love to have you on there. If you have an iPhone, if you don't, go get an iPhone. You should get one for a lot more reasons than just Clubhouse. I'm not sponsored by Apple. I just like the synchronicities of it all. I'm not anti-Android. I digress. Okay. All right. Love you all. Have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Time, as well as those of you who want to jump here on Facebook, Mondays at 8 a.m. for Launch Your Week with my dad, who's incredible. And then we're here every Wednesday on Clubhouse and Facebook at 10 a.m. Mountain Time. That's it for me. Thank you so much for one of your greatest assets, and that is your attention. So thank you for that. That is never lost on me. We'll see you next time. Bye.